Tonight on KGW News.
He's going to go ahead and take off from us. We're in this.
The new video from a high-speed chase on I-5 to stop a double murder suspect and to save a toddler.
He's fine!
Plus, the program some parents say is essential for some students in Salem that's now disappearing.
We suspect that the district didn't think through all these implications.
Then, pedaling into the sunset? Why one of Portland's weirdest events is being stripped off the social schedule. And later,
the winner is Long Bomb.
Inside the Rose City restaurant just named the most outstanding in the country.
Put your hands high in the sky, driver!
Tonight, we're getting a look at the dramatic police body and dash cam videos just released from a high-speed chase and shootout along I-5. This was the culmination of a multi-state manhunt in April for a man accused of murdering 2 women, then taking off with his 1-year-old child. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. We want to warn you some of the images here may be disturbing for some viewers. Investigative reporter Kyla Boshi takes us through what happened.
April 23rd, 2:39 p.m. Oregon State Police spot a wanted man on Interstate 5 after an Amber Alert. The former police officer, 39-year-old Elias Huizar, is suspected of murdering 2 women in central Washington, then abducting a 1-year-old child.
2312. He's going to go ahead and take off from us. We're in this. Got a pursuit going southbound.
Newly released dash cam and body cam video shows the high-speed chase near Eugene.
Do it.
Police try to rear-end the suspect's vehicle.
312 is getting redirected on the freeway.
But the suspect continues on.
Turn around, pitting.
Officers ram him again, but he doesn't stop. Seconds later, there's an exchange of gunfire.
He's fine!
Nobody is hurt during the initial shootout, and the chase continues on I-5 southbound.
2312, shots fired at me. I'm good, I think.
The suspect then crashes a few miles away. When police catch up with him, they find him dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police pull the 1-year-old from the car. The child is okay, and the chase is over.
Thank goodness for that. Kyla Boshi reporting. In addition to the videos, police also released 85 pages of reports. They indicate that before the chase, authorities tracked the suspect to the Portland area after he used his bank card at an ATM, and that the suspect may have swapped out license plates with stolen plates in an effort to avoid getting caught. A former Oregon governor who also repeatedly raped a teenage girl has died. Neil Goldschmidt served for decades in public office until he was forced to face up to his past. In 2004, a Willamette Week investigation revealed he'd sexually abused a 14-year-old neighbor while serving as Portland's mayor. It tarnished his legacy and sent him out of the public eye. During his political career, Goldschmidt's credited with bringing the Max to Portland, creating Pioneer Courthouse Square and Tom McCall Waterfront Park. He later served as transportation secretary for President Jimmy Carter, then returned to Oregon and served as governor. He admitted to the statutory rape in 2004, though it had happened decades earlier, and he was never charged with a crime because the statute of limitations had expired. Today, we heard from Kerry Timchuk at the Oregon Historical Society to get his perspective on Goldschmidt's death.
Few Oregonians in political history rose so quickly at such a young age. Mayor of Portland at 32, one of the youngest cabinet secretaries ever, and then a one-term governor. Few did it so quickly as he did, but no Oregonian in political history so tarnished their legacy by their personal criminal actions than did he.
Goldschmidt died from heart failure. He was 83 years old. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Portland City Council voted today to foreclose on the old Gordon's Fireplace Shop. You may have seen the building from I-84 in Northeast Portland. The property owner has unpaid fines totaling more than $20,000 for code enforcement violations, and the building, which has stood since 1918, has become a magnet for graffiti and trash. In Tigard, more than a dozen people have been forced from their homes after a 2-alarm fire tore through their apartment building overnight. The fire at the Brightwaters at Red Hawk apartment complex on Southwest 108th and Durham Road burned 11 units. When the first crews got there, they saw flames coming out of the roof and residents evacuating.
It was scary, for sure. We're just glad it wasn't in our building, and and we didn't want people to be hurt or anything like that.
Well, everyone was able to get out safely with the Red Cross helping those who are displaced. No word yet on the cause. And a third teenager has been arrested in connection to killing a pet cat outside a Salem home. Police say the 15-year-old was charged with animal abuse, tampering with evidence, and interfering with a peace officer. While we are not showing this portion of the surveillance video, as we reported, the video shows one of the teens shooting the cat several times as the others watched. But police say they still have not identified the teen who actually pulled the trigger, and they continue to ask for tips. Detectives identified 2 other teens last week who are also booked on animal abuse charges. New tonight, a school program supporters say has been a success in Salem for decades is set to close at the end of this week. Thomas Schultz is in the newsroom. So Thomas, if this program, which helps support deaf and hard of hearing students, ends, what does that mean for the kids?
Well, David, it means next year the 25 students would be forced to move to neighborhood schools, and teachers tell me that could have big repercussions.
This was a really amazing program.
For more than 30 years, Allison Kaiser taught the deaf and hard of hearing in Salem, educating kids from Yamhill, Polk, and Marion County. Middle schoolers attended Crossler Middle. High schoolers go to Sprague.
They are centrally located so that the services are more efficient, more thorough, and more complete for these kids.
Though the end of school Friday could spell the end of these centralized programs. Next year, Salem Kaiser plans to send deaf and hard of hearing kids to their neighborhood school.
We don't think this district can provide a free, appropriate public education to the deaf students that we're representing at their neighborhood schools.
Whitney Hill is a lawyer representing 2 Salem Kaiser families with deaf students. She's suing to keep the program open.
This model has been extremely successful for students that may not need the intensity of the residential school for the deaf, but, would be completely isolated in their neighborhood schools.
The district sent a letter out in March alerting students and parents of the closure. And Hill says it's illegal for Salem Kaiser to close the centralized programs without input from families.
We suspect that the district didn't think through all these implications.
Salem Kaiser denied our interview request and say they can't comment on the lawsuit, though a spokesperson says students will continue to receive specified services. Though to many, a big question is left unanswered. Why is Salem Kaiser closing the programs to begin with?
They did not say why.
Now, when we asked the district that same question, they never responded. Though Salem Kaiser is facing the biggest budget cuts they've had in more than a decade, and last night they passed a budget slashing $70 million. David?
Yeah, it sounds like they're dealing with some potentially tough trade-offs here. Thank you, Thomas. By the way, we have some new details on the change in the Newberg School District we first told you about last night at 11. Their superintendent is expected to be out for 2 months in the midst of a multi-million-dollar budget crisis. Today, we learned Superintendent Stephen Phillips will be taking medical leave. The school board last night appointed Dr. Paula Radish as interim superintendent. She previously spent 13 years serving the district in that very role and said she will serve for the next 60 days for free.
It is real leadership for her to say, I will volunteer my time. She's not going to be paid. She's doing this out of the goodness of her heart to help rescue our school district.
And here's where they're at. The district has found themselves in millions in debt. It's looking at cutting $12 million from next school year's budget. The board this week discussed laying off 60 full-time employees and adding 10 furlough days for next year. We're taking a look at new data tonight that shows since last July, Multnomah County has purchased and handed out more than 6,500 tents and more than 24,000 tarps to homeless people. It is worth noting that as part of a settlement reached last spring in a lawsuit that argued the city was violating the Americans with Disabilities Act, the city agreed to prioritize removing campsites, obstructing sidewalks, and to track its progress. And that brings us to a second, perhaps even more interesting data point, that the city has removed more than 4,000 campsites and some 9,000 to 12,000 tents. That's more than the number of homeless people in the county. Some county leaders, including the chair, say giving out tents and tarps is a humane response as part of harm reduction. Some critics say the data shows it's money that should go toward more shelter options.
It's a crazy exercise of trying to walk up the down escalator. it encourages people to stay outdoors. The whole idea is to encourage people to come indoors.
Deeply concerning. You know, we're seeing this cycle of pumping tents and tarps into our community. We know a lot of that's coming from the Joint Office on Homelessness and some of our well-intentioned nonprofits, and we're continuing to spend way too much as a city trying to clean up our streets.
Meanwhile, the city's agreement to fund the Joint Office of Homeless Services that is run by the county is now up for renegotiation, with council expected to vote on that in the coming weeks. New at 11, a cougar sighting has shut down a popular hiking trail in the gorge. On Tuesday, Oregon Wildlife Services and state police say they received reports of a trail runner being stalked by a mountain lion on the Angels Rest Trail. This is not far from Bridal Veil Falls. We'll get you here on the map in just a second. The animal, by the way, has not been seen since. Officials have closed the trail until further notice to be safe. Still to come at 11 on this Wednesday, no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah, those kind. Why Portland's naked bike ride and this familiar blurry video are about to take a break this summer. Plus, same spot, big changes how Old Town's Badlands Bar is a new twist on an old neighborhood favorite.
And it's a beautiful night across all of Portland's neighborhoods right now. 61 degrees with a clear sky. We've had low humidity. We warm up even a little bit more tomorrow. But the weekend brings some challenges with the showers and possibly thunderstorms.